If you've been in the Sonic fandom long enough, or even if you just have a passing interest in the series, chances are you've at least heard about Archie Comics' Sonic the Hedgehog, which ran from 1992 to 2017. This was a comic book that had started out as a simple tie-in to the video games and cartoons, offering an interesting take on Sonic with a hodgepodge of ideas old and new being used to make up the world of Mobius. Maybe you've taken an interest in this wacky comic via the current burst of video essays, YouTube shorts, and comic dubs, and actually want to start reading the comic for yourself. Maybe the idea of reading 25 years worth of comic material that spans across hundreds of issues seems a little intimidating, and you're not quite sure where you should start reading given what you've heard about it. In this How to Read Archie Sonic video, I'll tell you all about the various phases of the comic, the individual books that make up the series, where you should start reading, and some more little tidbits. First, I'd like to clear up one of the bigger misconceptions of the comic, and most likely one of the biggest reasons most people don't even want to give the comic a chance. Ahem. Notorious writer and artist Ken Penders did not write and draw every single issue of Archie Sonic before 2006, nor did he create every single original character that shows up in the comic. This is one of those misconceptions that gets thrown around the web, no doubt because of the coverage of Ken's history with the franchise and his various other legal debacles, and it ends up painting him as the only important person who has ever worked on the comic before Ian Flynn. Yes, Ken Penders did write a decent chunk of issues during the 90s and early 2000s, but it should also be mentioned that Ken was only one man out of an entire team of writers and artists who worked on the book. As for the notorious Ken Penders art that he made, you know, the funky panels of long-quilled Sonic and other images that people pull from Google Images to make their funny reaction videos, a majority of them aren't even Ken's work. Ken Penders had penciled less than 20 issues during his time on Archie Sonic, and it was exclusively for stories that he had written. This isn't so much as me defending Ken as a creative, but more so one of those talking points that I would like to see put to rest, because it just becomes incredibly annoying whenever Ken Penders gets brought up into a conversation that has nothing to do with him. The misinformation even gets so bad that I've seen people claim that he created Sally Acorn and the Freedom Fighters, characters created by SEGA who had appeared almost a year before Ken had even started writing for the book. Comics are a collaborative medium, and the idea that one person could write and draw every single issue of an ongoing comic book and one-shots and spin-offs and other ongoing books is just silly. Did I go on a tangent? I think I went on a tangent. Oh well. First order of business, I would like to go into all the various types of Sonic comics that Archie had published, with quick little descriptions of what each book entails and what you can expect from it, as well as if it's actually important to what's considered the main continuity of Archie Sonic. First up is 1992's Sonic the Hedgehog miniseries. This 4-issue miniseries is the very first Sonic comic put out by Archie, acting as a sort of pilot for the rest of the book. When this comic came out, SEGA of America were still figuring out what they wanted to do with this new version of Sonic and his new world, so there were a handful of inconsistencies with the rest of the book. Sonic's origin is completely different, Robotnik's takeover of Mobius is completely different, and Sally Acorn is depicted as orange and blonde instead of brown, like she's known for. Despite the arguable canonicity of these early issues, I would still recommend checking it out as the start of your Archie Sonic journey, as it does the best job at setting up the ongoing conflict and characters. Dr. Robotnik rules the planet Mobius, with Sonic the Hedgehog standing up to him with his fellow freedom fighters. The artwork and jokes are also just super charming, with writer Mike Gallagher hamming it up with some grade A puns and artist Scott Shaw providing some wonderfully cartoony artwork. Up next is Sonic the Hedgehog in 1993, the main book of Archie Sonic, which spans 290 issues. This book originally began doing more of the same from the miniseries, with Sonic continuing to fight Dr. Robotnik for control of Mobius, introducing more side characters, more villains, and beginning to shift in tone to a more serious narrative to coincide with the Saturday morning cartoon. This book would go through different tones, writers, artists, and more as the years went on, and trying to condense it all into a few paragraphs and sentences is something I really don't want to do with this video, outside of where you should start reading the book. This one is the main attraction, and it's a beast of a comic. Moving on, we go to Sonic Universe. Sonic Universe is another ongoing book that launched in 2009, continuing events from the main book. This book often follows the adventures of characters other than Sonic and the core cast of Freedom Fighters in small 4-issue mini-arcs that may or may not tie into events happening in the main book. Characters such as Knuckles, Shadow, Silver, and a handful of others. If you're looking for short Sonic stories in a comic format, I honestly think this is the best place to start for reading as a newbie. Following that is Knuckles the Echidna, the first ongoing comic from the 90s, clocking in at 32 issues and primarily written by Ken Penders. Everything you've heard about this comic on the internet is true and then some, and it's even weirder when you actually read it for yourself. This comic primarily acts as a quarantine zone for Ken's non-Sonic ideas, using Knuckles as a means to an end to put out unoriginal ideas and stories that are often more boring than they are baffling. This comic does introduce some interesting ideas and characters, but a handful of them are either done away with in later issues or are only ever good when written by another writer. If you just want something to laugh at, I'd give it a cautious recommendation. Sonic Super Specials and One-Shots. Sonic Super Specials were a series of comics in the 90s that were giant one-shot issues, starting out as actually plot-relevant stories before becoming a dumping ground for some of Archie Sonic's worst content. A handful of these are certified stinkers, and you'd be better off just getting some of these plot beats from wiki entries. On the flip side of things, the earlier one-shots, the ones not under the Super Special name, are great, with classics such as In Your Face, Sonic Blast, Mecha Madness, and some others. Various miniseries. Aside from the OG miniseries, Archie Sonic had 3 other miniseries that followed side characters, those being Princess Sally, Tails, and the awesomely named Sonic's friendly nemesis, Knuckles. All of these are meant to be read in between the main book, adding some neat world building to the world of Archie Sonic. Sonic X. Sonic X is the tie-in comic to the anime Sonic X, sticking close to the aesthetics and tone of that show. It's decent fun, but not important to the main series, save for issue 40, which you could arguably skip anyway. Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom is the tie-in comic to the spin-off series Sonic Boom. If you love the self-aware humor from the TV show, then you'll fall in love with this comic as it doubles down on that sense of humor. This one is slightly more important to the events of the main book than Sonic X, as it ties into the second Sonic and Mega Man crossover, Worlds Unite. With only 10 issues, it's a very light and fun read. Lastly, we have trade paperbacks and collections. Sonic Archives, Sonic Selects, Sonic Saga Series, Sonic Legacy, and Sonic Super Special magazines are all just trade paperbacks of the comics, either in chronological order or just following a particular theme. These are mostly unimportant unless you're a collector or you want to try and hunt these down so you can read the comics in person without having to spend hundreds of dollars on single issues. That about covers everything that you can read. Now let's get to talking about where you should start reading. All in all, I would say there are 3 really good places to start reading Archie Sonic. Number 1 is all of it. Everything from issue 0 of the miniseries or the first issue of the main series and everything after that. This is if you want to go out and see everything this book has to offer, warts and all. I can't lie to you and say every issue of this comic before 2006 is some underrated gem. Plainly put, a lot of it gets really bad, whether it be through poor writing, shoddy artwork, or editorial meddling that results in both. But I also can't say that all of it is totally worthless, since I do think that between the cracks, there are a lot of fun stories and moments that show that the team behind this book really did want to create a good comic book. Reading everything also prepares you for the excellence that is 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog issue 60, written by Ian Flynn. This issue marks a definitive change in both quality and tone for the book, where it would finally decide that it just wanted to be an all-ages adventure comic with vibrant and cartoony artwork in a style closer to that of the SEGA games. While the world, character designs, and tone would change to match those of the games better, this was still the world of Archie's Sonic the Hedgehog, with Sonic the Hedgehog and friends still fighting for their lives against Dr. Eggman. The dialogue is sharp and witty, the art and action is expressive and always fun to watch, and the book is almost always on the move, telling one ongoing narrative that doesn't ever seem to stop, even if it looks like it's going to be taking a break. This run on Archie Sonic is simply epic. That is the best way I could describe it. If you need extra convincing, I would highly recommend checking out LOWART's and IANWAFFLES videos on this period of the comic, since they do a great job of breaking it down and why it works. If you want to know when you need to start reading Sonic Universe alongside the main book, it's issue 196 followed by Sonic Universe number 1, and then you just go back and forth from there. If none of that sounds appealing to you though, then that's where we go to our last starting point. 2013 Sonic the Hedgehog issue 252, also written by Ian Flynn. Following the infamous lawsuit involving Ken Penders and Archie Comics, go look it up, I'm not talking about it, the Archie Sonic comics would require a full reboot to scrub itself of nearly every piece of comic original ideas that the book had fostered up to that point. If you don't care about any of that stuff and just want to read a Sonic comic because you like the games, then this is probably the best place to start. The world and character designs are near identical to that of the games, with the same basic plot line of Sonic and the Freedom Fighters fighting Eggman. It's the same general idea, just more oriented to what the games had been doing. If you love Sonic Unleashed in particular, you'll get a kick out of the reboot, as 75% of it consists of a retelling of that game's story, with some fun twists such as adding new characters and seeing what other game characters might have been up to during the events of Sonic Unleashed. The reboot is around the same quality as Ian Flynn's other Archie Sonic stories, and if you enjoy his writing from the IDW Sonic comics or Sonic Frontiers, then you should get some enjoyment from this run. Start at issue 252 for the main book and issue 55 for Sonic Universe if you want to get started at the reboot. The reboot is also pretty short, with around 80 issues altogether, making it a fairly light read. Of course, you could always just start anywhere if you wanted to. Just pick whatever has a cool cover, see if you like it, and decide if you want to keep reading. If you're looking for a more specific reading guide and when you'll need to switch books, I'll provide a few reading guides that I like to use in the description, as well as a few character-specific reading guides I made myself. Now, sadly, these comics have been out of print for over half a decade, and there's no official way of purchasing them nowadays. I know it's sad, I'm a little broken up about it, so I'm just going to post some pictures that make me feel better. Just some cool pictures is all. Yeah, that's it. Cool pictures. Super cool. Some would even say way past cool. While there have always been videos and online content going into these comics, I feel as though Archie Sonic was just one of those pieces of media that was deemed too intimidating to tackle for its sheer size and somewhat infamous reputation, with most actual reading recommendations being stuck on blogs or websites that aren't going to reach a lot of people. I hope this video does manage to get out there and help offer a few simple suggestions on where you can start reading this wacky but mostly fun comic series, since I think it has a lot to offer. I'm not sure if I'll ever tackle video essays like this ever again, maybe for a hypothetical Bunny Rabbit or Eggman video, but we'll see. I'd just like to thank you for watching, and I hope this video gets you to start reading Archie Sonic. I forgot about Sonic Mega Drive, I'm sorry guys.